In this video, I will be modifying parts that came off the boosted H22, such as the Morso oil pan. I need to move the oil return line for the turbo. I'm also going to take the auto timing tensioner that came on the H22 and turn it into a manual tensioner. So here's the Morso oil pan that I was talking about that came off the H22, and this is the oil return line for the turbo. And why I'm wanting to move it is because the AC compressor would be in the way of the return line, and I can't run AC, or I can't run a turbo. Well, I want to move this over a little bit, and then I noticed over here on the left side there is like an outlet as well. So I'm wondering if I can take this and put it over here, but I'm pretty sure this is, a different thread than this outlet here. So I'm going to come back to this oil pan while I do some research on the side to figure out what kind of fitting is over here, and what I can do to either just buy a fitting and an elbow to make the return line go up, and then adapt this one side of the fittings over to the turbo. But let me do some research on that. I'll get back to this oil pan. I apologize. I didn't realize this outlet was here, and I was thinking I was just going to move this over. So that will come down the line in the future, and I will do a video on that later. So here's the auto timing tensioner. I'm actually going to try to take the piston out of here so that I can run a bolt through it and, adjust the bolt in and out manually to set the tension on the timing. So I got to figure out how this comes apart so that I can modify this piece. So let's dig into it. I honestly have no clue how this comes apart. I am just, tearing it apart and trying to figure out how to get this pin out now. I got the cap off, but wish me the best of luck. I'm sure anyway. Oh, there went the spring. I don't know where that went to. Oh, looky there. It just came apart, just like that. Some kind of washer in here. There's a bunch of stuff in here, actually. There's a spring. Ew, with a whole bunch of gooey stuff on it. That is the extent of it. Nothing else. There's the plug on the back and the piston on the top with the spring and everything that was in it. I don't think there's much more to it than that. Wasn't too hard at all to break this down. Now I just got to figure out how to shove a bolt through it and make it stable, where this rod bolt that pushes up on the timing pulley, doesn't bend or anything like that. So I think what I'm going to do is weld a washer up top here, then weld another nut that bolt goes through, so it has more stability when it's pushing on the timing pulley to tighten that belt up. So what I did not think about and realize, this is a piece of aluminum. I can't weld anything to this. There is this little key that was inside there around the piston. I'm going to see if I can't use this piece right here. This actually looks like a piece of steel, where I can lock that and lock the manual tensioner bolt into place with this piece. So I'm going to take it off this rod here and see if I can make it work that way. So here is the key, I guess you could say, for the auto tensioner when it was sticking through out the top here. And like I said, it's like keyed, and this is the only thing I can weld to have, you know, make my manual tensioner, since this piece is aluminum. I'm going to try to just weld the nut to the top and the bottom of this and slide it in there and see how that works. I filed it down so that the nut is actually inside the key now, and I filed around the up the top side of the nut here. I filed it down so that the washer that was on the key will now go over it as well, and that'll like keep it more snug and in place inside the tensioner. I'm going to try to weld this as much as I can and get a really good bead around it so that it sticks, and test it out. So let me get started on that. That's actually looking like a pretty good weld. I'm gonna hit it a few more times so that I, you know, don't have just these 4 little points. I'm gonna hit it around so that it really sticks and doesn't come apart. I like it. I think it's gonna stay. Now I just don't think that washer is gonna fit back on top there. And this thing is super hot, so I'm gonna go cool it down. Cooled it down with some pond water. And let's see here. Yep, it's not gonna fit over it. Maybe I can file it down, or maybe it doesn't matter. I don't know. I mean, honestly, I don't think it really matters to me. I'll try to file it down and see if I can't get it to fit over. Honestly, just looking at it, I feel like I'm wasting my time with this washer. It has to have like a flat surface, and there's no way. I mean, I don't want to grind the welds off, so I guess, you know, that's out of the picture again. I'm just gonna throw it back together and throw it back on the motor over there and see if it breaks, see if it holds up. We'll try it. So far, this is what it's looking like again. Got that snap ring in place, that locking ring. It's kind of wobbly in there, but I mean the pressure will be down, so it shouldn't really move. It's got, you know, it'll be under a load. And then, yeah, it'll work like that. Let's go try it. Alrighty, I got the bead welded on top of the bolt here, and we're gonna see if that gives enough clearance for me to be able to move the wrench around the top of the bolt so that I can tighten this tensioner back up. Before, there wasn't enough clearance for that wrench to fit in here to be able to tighten this up. So we'll see how it works, and if not, I'll just weld a little bit more on until I get close enough where I can, you know, be able to move that wrench around in here. Let's try it out. So far so good. It seems to be enough clearance there to turn the wrench in here. And now just trying to get it tight enough to see. Putting some tension on that belt. I mean, that feels pretty tight to me. At least that's where I usually feel like I get the belt at. I don't know. Let's see. I should have checked that before I took it off, right? You know? Okay. Did not think of, though, how do you do this inside the car? It's a good question. All right, it's tightened on there. It's nice and snug. It's got tension on the belt. Probably not enough slack. Probably need to, you know, loosen this belt up. But I wanted to show that I think I actually have, you know, a working tensioner now. It's not going to break. It's, you know, it's held up strong enough to take the pressure of the belt and the tensioner here to press down on the tensioner pulley, to press down on the manual tensioner, and it's not breaking that well loose. It's not bending the key in. It's enough to hold the pulley system. And I'm going to do a few rotations here just to make sure. I don't see why it wouldn't, you know, be a problem. But let's go ahead and rotate the cylinders. And I'm probably going to have to take this back off, ladies and gentlemen, because I feel like I need to take the head down and probably redo a head gasket on this and maybe put some ARP head studs in it. So, that being said, I also need to check compression, make sure that's good before I even tear it down, just to see if, you know, it's getting good compression. I'd assume, I was told that this motor was fine. It was pulled from a running vehicle, that the snout here, when you put a crank pulley on, that it wobbles and that this is bent. I don't see how the crank pulley, where the crank pulley goes in the crank here, how the snout could be bent. I've read up a little bit about people saying that, you know, they've had issues with their snout being bent. I don't see how that could happen. That's a lot of, you know, pressure that would have to be put on the end of the crank there. But I don't know. We're going to find out. But so far, this tensioner is working perfectly fine. And I mean, I don't know how it's going to be under, you know, a load, especially being boosted. But I guess we'll find out. Well, I think I had the tensioner where I want it. I trust it. I trust it, at least. You know, praying to God that it doesn't break under a load when, you know, I get the motor all put back together and get the motor in the car. I just didn't want to spend the money on a name brand manual tensioner. I was like looking at them and like comparing them to the eBay $14 ones to a name brand one that was $100, and they looked very similar. And it's like, I'm not gonna pay $100 if it's gonna be the quality of a $14 part. So I was like, you know what? I really just want to make my own so that I can make my own and say I made my own, and that I didn't have to buy a $100 part. And that's okay if you knock me, it's fine. If it breaks, it breaks. You know, I wasted money on this car and I'll just redo it over. But yeah, that's where I'm at with the manual tensioner I have created, and let's see if it holds up.